My name's Gordon. This is your Wheel and Anchor webinar, Andalusian Dreams 2025, where we're going to be covering off our program both in the spring and in the fall of next year. So just allow me to say a few words about Wheel and Anchor for those of you who have perhaps not traveled with us before. You're curious what we're about, and if you are, you can if you're watching a replay, you can skip forward by about 90 seconds, and otherwise just bear with me. Wheel and Anchor is a community of travelers from across Canada. How did we start? Well, I've been organizing trips for Canadians for over 30 years, and when I got to a point in my life and in my career where I was really noticing that the best experience, the best value that people were garnering from trips was when they were with a like-minded group of people. And so I said to myself, let's create a group of people like that from all corners of the country and try to explore the way travelers want to explore. And so that was the basis of Wheel and Anchor, and why we got started was to take, first of all, input from the community. A lot of our trips are generated based on ideas from the community, how they like to travel, where we like to travel. And then creating around that a framework where people can connect with each other and for some amazing travel experiences. And therein lies our goal, which is that you become well-traveled. That is to say, it's not about quantity, but about quality. I mean, we visit almost all corners of the planet. I mean, not every country, but we do it in a way that has you really gain an experience that is quite different from most other companies, because our trips are curated by myself. In many cases, they're actually operated directly by us. So there's no middlemen. We've gone out and chosen the hotels, chosen the places to eat, chosen the guides. And that's not universally true, but it's true, as in, for example, this program to Andalusia. And again, we also put a big focus on ensuring that our members get a chance to get to know each other. And that is a bit of a fine art, because if you just join a group tour, you're not necessarily going to, you may meet some fun people along the way, but you're not necessarily going to feel like you've uh, connected with the other people on the trip. And so we try to go out of our way to ensure that you really feel like you've gone traveling with a group of friends. So that's what we're all about at Wheel and Anchor. And if you've been following our newsletters, then you will get a sense of that, the flavor that we're creating. So quick introduction. My name, once again, Gordon Drager. I'm the founder of Wheel and Anchor. I curate all of the trips here. And I have an amazing team of people who help me actually facilitate and deliver all these trips, because it's a big amount of work based on what I just said. And the most important person for you to know is Paula. Hi, Paula. Paula is our lead trip specialist, who is there to ensure that your questions are answered and that you really have everything you need to know to feel confident to join us on our trips. So Paul is there to facilitate that, and again, supported by a wonderful team of people that we have working in, well, actually all over the globe. Today, we're going to be focusing, though, on Andalusia, so southern Spain, which is an incredible destination with a great mix of culture, cuisine, and I'm going to be taking you on this little digital journey where we hope you'll consider joining us next spring or fall of next year. We've got two trips, as I say, both timings that are the same program. So let's do the geography lesson, as I like to do. I'm a map lover, so we always start with the map. Spain, of course, down here in southern Europe, or specifically southwestern Europe. We're going to begin and end in Madrid, which is, of course, not Andalusia. Andalusia begins down here in the southern part of the country, which is on this part of the map, the bottom bit, obviously the closest point of Europe to Africa. But we begin and end in Madrid because Madrid is an easy place to get into. In fact, from Toronto, there's nonstop flights into Madrid, which makes for easy connections from across Canada. We have a pre-trip that I'll share with you in a minute about, which will take a couple extra days in Madrid. If you haven't been in Madrid, I do highly recommend considering adding on that pre-trip. But if you already have familiarized yourself with Madrid, you've been there before, you can begin. We'll spend one night and then we'll hop down by high-speed train all the way down to Seville, which you'll undoubtedly be familiar with, and spend the first 3 nights in Seville, visiting this area and also this bit of the peninsula, which, as I say, is the southernmost point of Europe. Oops, sorry. We'll visit also Jerez and Cadiz, and then we'll spend a few nights in Córdoba, which is in the central northern part in a beautiful valley. So we'll spend 3 nights up there. And then the final 6 nights we're going to spend on what's considered the gateway to the Costa del Sol, which is the city of Malaga. A city that, if you would have asked me a year ago, I would have been like, I don't know about Malaga, but I went there last fall of 2023, to have a look around, because I hadn't been there, quite honestly, in a couple of decades, and the city has absolutely transformed. And I was like, wow, this is the kind of place where I think our members would love to hang out for a longer period of time. That's why we're going to spend 6 nights in Malaga, and from there visit Granada, visit Ronda, the city up in the hills, as well as famous Marbella and Mijas, and also plenty of time for Malaga itself. So let's go through the day-by-day itinerary. So first of all, I'm going to start with the pre-trip program. So this first couple of slides is all about the first couple of days in Madrid, which is an optional add-on. Madrid, of course, is the largest city in Spain, its capital, and is, again, it's interesting because I first visited Madrid in 1991, and I found it a little bit of a dark and dreary place. Mind you, when I was there, it was wintertime, so maybe it was dark and dreary. But recent visits over the years to Madrid have, for me, uncovered what I think is one of the finest cities in Europe. And what I like about Madrid is that it's, in a way, more authentic. When people think about Spain these days, they always think about Barcelona, and Barcelona is a great city for sure, but it's become very, very touristy, so much so that it tilts a little bit the flavor of the city, which is not to say that I wouldn't go to Barcelona for sure. But in terms of the authenticity of Spain, Madrid, it really all begins here. And on our pre-trip, we'll have a walking tour that will cover the Royal Palace, which is the largest one in Europe, the Puerta del Sol, Plaza Mayor, which is this big square that you see pictured here, the meeting place of the city, as it will. We'll enjoy some tapas and churros. A lot of those things we're going to be, that cuisine actually comes more from the south, from the Andalusian part of Spain. Nevertheless, we're going to get our first flavors and bites of that. Maybe some jamón ibérico, for those that like the very special dried pork meat, the dried ham that they make there, which is absolutely out of this world. And there'll be lots of time as well to explore Madrid on your own in the evening. Although we will have lots of tapas down south, we have a wonderful place to go out and enjoy some tapas along the street called Cava Baja, which is the street where all the tapas bars are in Madrid. We're going to make a side trip as well on our pre-trip to Toledo. Toledo, which is we can access by high-speed rail. We're doing a lot by rail on this trip because, first of all, Spain has such an incredible rail system, and so we can get from one side of the country to the other in a matter of a couple of hours. So Toledo, for example, is only 40 minutes away by high-speed rail. If you were to drive, it would be more like an hour plus. So we get to Toledo, and this city is really one of its most proud products, if you will, are these incredible Spanish swords that they have fabricated for centuries here in Toledo. But and we'll see those on display at the Alcazar Fortress, which will be one of the highlights of our trip, as well as the spectacular cathedral, which rivals the one in Madrid, to be quite honest with you. And again, there'll be lots of time. Toledo is is a much smaller city compared to Madrid, so it feels very homey. And yet the history here, this of course was the first capital of Spain, long before Madrid was. So it'll be a great day trip. And then we'll come back late afternoon again by high-speed train and have the evening at leisure in Madrid. For those that are joining us on the trip, they'll arrive on this day, and so there'll be a chance, depending on what flight connection you have. Typically, you should be in by sort of midday, early afternoon. there's time to sort of wander around the streets of Madrid at leisure. We'll arrange a get together, an icebreaker, if you will, for our members that that were on the pre-tour versus ones who joined us on the first day in Madrid. And then our main itinerary will get started to Andalusia. So the next day we head down again. We for those that were on the pre-trip, we head back to the station, which is very close to our hotel, and we get on an AVE train, which are the Spanish high-speed trains, and we zip all the way down to Seville, which is 540 kilometers away, and we'll be there in 2.5 hours. So it's amazing, the rail infrastructure, and we pass through so many different countryside aspects of the countryside. You see the wide plains and low rolling hills, and then we move up into the mountains as we get into Córdoba and down into Seville. So we'll spend 3 nights in Seville, and again, we're going to be at actually a lovely little hotel that I uncovered when I was there last year called Casas de la Juderia, which is actually 27 houses that were all pieced together and made into a hotel. So I can tell you already, when you first check in, and people are going to be in different parts of these different rooms, the place is like a little bit of a maze, but that kind of what the fun of it is at all, because I really like staying in these places that have such character and history in them. So not to mention the fact that it is literally a stone's throw from the cathedral, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, as is noted here, and in the heart of all of these narrow little passageways that Seville is so well known for. We'll immediately see, when we arrive in Seville as the principal city in Andalusia, the Islamic influences. Seville was the second capital back in the days where Islamic was the Islamic rulers were in charge of Andalusia, and specifically Seville. So we'll have time already to get oriented on this amazing city. We'll then branch off the next day for a full look at Seville, specifically the Real Alcázar, which is actually the oldest royal residence. So the official royal palace, as we mentioned, is up in Madrid, but the Real Alcázar is still a royal residence, the oldest one in Europe that is in use today. It is here you get a little bit of a sense from this photo of the front facade here. It's an incredibly intricate palace with influences from the Moors. It's really, really a beautiful spot. We're going to head across the Guadalquivir River. This is the river that sort of bisects Madrid, and have a chance to take in the Triana food market. As those of you who've participated in our trips know, there is always a bit of a culinary bent. We really enjoy going to places that allow us to get the flavors of the local cuisine, and here it's no different. And finally, we're going to see a lot of different traditions in Andalusia, and one of them will hear the percussion instruments, the castañuelas, which are really the spirit of Andalusia. And we'll do a little workshop to understand the different instruments, hear how they're played, maybe play them a little bit ourselves, and you'll really get a different, the next time you hear it, you'll identify differently with it, having had sort of a hands-on experience. We're then going to take a full day trip down to Jerez and Cadiz, as I mentioned. So we're going to head down to the southwestern coast near the tip of Andalusia. Jerez is a region which is very famous for its equestrian heritage, and also flamenco. So and of course wine. So we're going to see here, while we're in this region, both wine and horses. But the wine that Jerez in particular is famous for is sherry. So we've all heard about sherry. Similar, it's a fortified wine, similar to port, similar to Madeira wine, and other variations of it from places around the world. And we'll find out why specifically Jerez is so important for the production of sherry in Spain. We're then going to continue down later in the afternoon to Cadiz, which is the oldest city in Spain, dating back to 1000 BC. And so we'll have a tour of this beautiful city and end with a wonderful display and a wonderful show of Spanish horsemanship before making our way back to Seville. So it's a longer day. We have probably a couple of hours of driving in total, but well worth it because I think seeing both Jerez and Cadiz is a great thing to do when you've got the time, as we do on this trip. We'll then check out and head to Cordoba. So just to give you again the geography once more, Seville is down here. And so just for perspective, the Portuguese border is basically just where the edge of the photo is here. We'll have visited Jerez and Cadiz, and now we're going to zip overland. It's not a far drive. It's about an hour and 15 minutes to Cordoba, and we'll arrive in this city that is also a rather amazing spot. The old town of Cordoba is one of 15 cities in the world where the entire old town is designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So that gives you a sense of what you can expect here. And we are staying once again in the middle of the old town at another Casas de Lujuderia. They are not related, oddly. They just happen to have the same name, but the concept of them is so neat that when I found them, I said, this is, again, the type of experience that we want our members to have. In this case, it's only 5 interconnected houses that are right in the middle of the town. In fact, they are just to the left of where these 2 towers are in the picture. So a very short walk to the Mezquita, and which is the highlight of Cordoba, the Mezquita. You may not have heard of it before, often referred to as the Grand Mosque. It is this building that is shown here in the middle, which encompasses this thing over here. And you think, well, wait a minute, mosque, this almost looks more like a cathedral. Well, here's the thing. The Mezquita in Cordoba is both. It was originally built back in the 8th century as a mosque, and then it was expanded upon. And then at some point, the Arabic rulers were no longer in charge, and the city fell under Christian rule. And at that point, rather than sort of tearing everything down, the very sly ruler who was in charge at the time decided to build the cathedral basically directly adjacent to the mosque. Well, make a long story short, the rulers changed again. It went back to Islamic rule. And it was further expanded so that the mosque basically now surrounds the cathedral. So you have a cathedral inside or part of a mosque, which makes it a very, very, very special place to visit. Because honestly, I've never not seen any other place like that in the world. But for me, it's a bit of positive symbolism in the fact that you can see how these 2 powerful religions were able to just interconnect and work with each other, and it's a very special place. So it'll be one of the first things that we do, because you can't arrive in Cordoba and not head to the Mezquita. But there'll be ample time to go back and explore it again and look at it from all different angles. We're going to head to the following day, another very important site, which is just outside the city, the Castillo de Almodovar. This is a incredible medieval fortress that you see perched up on a hill, which is about 40 minutes outside of Cordoba, and a rather amazing fortress that again is part of from the Spanish era, from the Spanish heritage, as opposed to the many Islamic buildings that we'll see here. That same day in the afternoon, we're going to do just that. We're going to head back towards Cordoba, and we're going to take in the 10th century Medina Azahara, the palace city. Medina, the term you probably heard, particularly if you followed our tours to like Morocco and Egypt and Oman and so on. The Medina is basically the palace, the town. I mean, that's what the whole place was. And this Medina, this 10th century Medina, which was largely buried. In fact, they've only excavated about 10% of the overall site. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, even though it's effectively still largely a ruin. But it is still so impressive. It was actually used as one of the sites for Game of Thrones. And once again, there's a theme that you'll see these incredible palaces, medinas that have been brought into use in modern filmmaking. And the final thing I want to mention about this day is that we're going to have yet another culinary surprise for you here. We're going to have dinner at a restaurant that, once again, I discovered when I was there, called El Envero. I met the Spanish owner who didn't speak much English, but his son was kind enough to explain to me their philosophy about food preparation and family history. And I spent a wonderful evening there, and we discussed about creating a special Andalusian evening for our members. And so I can't tell you exactly what it's going to be, first of all, because it should be a bit of a surprise, but we're going to get in a bit more than just a dinner, but rather a short demonstration about cooking in Andalusia and the approach and how things are done there. So that will be overall a rather amazing day. And thankfully, we'll have a free day the next day because gosh knows we'll probably have a glass or two of wonderful Spanish wine. And so you'll be able to wander around and enjoy Córdoba a bit on your own. For those that have traveled with us before, you know that we try where possible to put in as many free days as we can, because the most memorable parts of travel are those things that you discover, those little surprises that you find on your own. And so there's so many little, Cordoba is not a big city. You can walk around it, through it, back and forth easily within a day. And yet there's so many little nuances to it. The Roman bridge that spans the Guadalquivir River. This is the same river that flows through Seville. The botanical gardens, the Plaza de la Corredera. We'll give you a whole bunch of ideas, and not to mention that when you first arrive into Córdoba, you'll certainly get you're certainly inspired to do a number of things on your free day. We'll then make the trip down to Malaga. So we're going to basically head due south and go over the hills, over the mountains, down to the Mediterranean coast. It's about a 2-hour drive. This is really olive country. As you know, Spanish is one of the biggest olive oil producers in the world, or the biggest olive oil producer in the world. And the heart of it is in the area around Malaga and to this, around Cordoba and to the south towards Malaga. And you'll come into the city, and you will probably be as shocked as I was, because first of all, it's been totally, when I say, I don't want to say gentrified in the wrong sense of the word, but it's been in the wrong sense of the word. It's been renovated, freshened up. It's like the streets have been polished in marble. It is a remarkable place, and is just now, I mean, it's obviously become touristically very interesting, but not nearly as popular as certainly Barcelona or even Madrid or even Seville, which is why it's a great time to go and see what the city's all about. Most people have come to Malaga, again, because of the Costa del Sol and to visit the beach. And of course, we'll do that because the beach is right there. But there's so much more to the city that meets the eye. Picasso was born here. And so we're going to spend 6 nights. And again, that's some of you think, why would we spend 6 nights in one place? Well, I tell you, as often happens on our trips, our members will look back and say, thank you for allowing us to spend 6 nights here, because it is worth spending the time. We've got lots in store for you while we're in Malaga. And first of all, I mentioned Picasso. Picasso was born here. We're going to visit his museum, which is, Picasso obviously famous for his Cubist work. And there's an incredible showcase, because we often generally know Picasso's more famous pieces, specifically Guernica, which is arguably his most famous piece. But that, of course, is shown at the Reina Sofia Museum in Madrid. So if you are an art fan, specifically a Picasso fan, you'll probably want to make sure that you allow time on the last day of the trip, or if you didn't already on the first day of the trip, to take in some Picasso at the Reina Sofia, Queen Sofia Museum in Madrid. Nevertheless, we're going to see actually the Picasso Museum, which is well worth the visit. We're going to visit the Alcazaba Fortress, which is a Moorish citadel high up on a hill overlooking Malaga and the whole Mediterranean seaside. So amazing views from up there. And then here, we will already visited one sort of a flamenco show, but we're going to get the most authentic flamenco show here in Malaga, because of course you can't visit Andalusia without taking in a little bit of flamenco. We're going to do a day trip to Alhambra. So we're going to make the drive up to Granada. And I thought long and hard about this, because of course we could have broken this up and done a couple of days in Granada and a couple of days down in Malaga. But I think that to be able to arrive in a hotel, check in, and settle in for a week is well worth it. And while Granada is a beautiful city, the Alhambra is what we're there for. And this is undoubtedly a full day experience. This will be the longest day of the trip because it takes us about an hour and a half to get up there. And then we'll spend the whole day inside Alhambra Palace, which, if you don't know too much about Alhambra, I mean, I'm not going to do the history lesson on it now. It's obviously a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Alhambra, the word Alhambra means red in Arabic. So it's a red colored palace that was originally conceived to be a paradise on earth. It has multiple palace buildings and gardens. I mean, it is, anybody that's been there will tell you it is absolutely spectacular. It's a must visit. We will do it. We will spend the whole day there. And again, you will really be rewarded by a visit there. We're then going to have a free day in Malaga that will give you some time to sort of, again, settle down, enjoy the many things that there are to do. There is another castle up on the hill called Gibraltar, which is even further up on the hill with amazing, and this is a great shot actually that gives you an idea of the landscape here. So it's mountains, but fairly rounded rolling mountains that really cover the whole seaside of the Costa del Sol. This is what this area region is so characteristic for. You could also just enjoy and spend a day going to the beach, and you think, okay, is it going to be beach weather in March? In March, listen, the weather in March is likely to be on the warm side. Southern Spain can for sure be in the high teens, if not already the low 20s in March. The sea may still be a little bit cool. The Mediterranean in March is probably around 15, 16 degrees, my temperature, but that's a little cool for some. But if you are somebody that's like, yeah, but I really want to go and enjoy a swim in the Mediterranean, then you're better off in October because, of course, it will have had all of the scorching summer heat. And will be still warmer right into the middle end of October. And as I say, there's a big long beach about 7-minute walk from the from the Molina Lario, which is where we're staying in Malaga. We're going to do a full day trip up to Ronda. You may have heard of this town before. The town is most notable as the oldest bullfighting ring in Spain. The ring itself is actually just behind this building on top of the cliff, but visually, it's most known for this picture that you see here, the Puente Nuevo, this iconic bridge that spans the both sides of the town. So, we'll visit there. The bridge is, filled with visitors that stream back and forth and at the various viewpoints because it really is quite an iconic site. And the city is charming. I mean, it's it's not just a tourist site. There are definitely lots of locals there. There's lots of little cafes and bars and souvenir shops. So we're going to spend the whole day just visiting Ronda. We'll have obviously a short tour and orientation, why this town was so important, how bullfighting came, specifically here. And we'll have time to wander around and enjoy lunch in town. There's some beautiful windy roads that take us up through the countryside with initially views out to the Mediterranean. It's just all in all, a spectacular drive and a spectacular day up in Ronda. And our last full day trip will be from Malaga, will be to Marbella and Mijas. Mijas, which is set back from the seashore, as you can see on the side of the hill. This has become, Marbella has become the jet set city in Spain. You've heard of it before. Some people have said to me, well, why don't we stay in Marbella? You don't want to stay in Marbella. It's really, let's put it this way. Vladimir Putin has a place in Marbella. He doesn't admit it, but everybody knows it. So that's why we don't stay in Marbella. It's not really our crowd. But it's worth seeing because the old town is so opulent and so just like wow. So we're not going to spend a long time there, but you can't not visit this region. You can't visit this region, not visit Marbella. But Mijas is actually the more interesting town. It's got these donkey taxis that are still in use. It has an amazing contemporary art museum, and again with views out over to Marbella and down to the Mediterranean seaside. So it'll be a great final day. And we're going to have an amazing last dinner in Malaga at a restaurant called Attrezzo, which is owned by somebody whose name you might have heard before, Antonio Banderas. So that'll be a very special evening. And then we'll make our way back again. We'll hop on the high-speed train zip out of Malaga, and about 2.5, 3 hours later, we will be in Madrid for our final evening. There's still going to be time here again. If you're all of a sudden inspired by Picasso at the museum in Malaga, then there'll be a chance to run back to see the Guernica at the Reina Sofia. I've seen it. It's pretty impressive work of art because it's huge. You only see ever a picture of it on your computer screen or something like that. It's pretty impressive. And there'll be time for hitting up the markets and doing some last minute shopping. We'll have our final dinner in Madrid, and it will undoubtedly be memorable. It might even be paella, like you see pictured here. And that's it. And our trip will wrap up, and we'll depart from Madrid. Maybe you'll continue elsewhere in Europe. Maybe you'll combine it with another one of our tours. And Paula will enlighten us as to what tours are adjacent to this Andalusian Dreams program. And all of the details, of course, are in the program itinerary. Just to give you a few of the sort of the highlights here, the pre-program pricing here for that extra first couple of nights with guiding and all the rest of it is shown here. 1290 Canadian. I'm not going to run through all of the details, but lots of inclusions there. The main program, 2 weeks, 84.90 Canadian, based on double occupancy. We kept the single price as low as we possibly could, considering that the hotels basically charge us the same whether two people are in the room or just one. But all prices in Canadian dollars as usual. And again, we have some wonderful hotels picked up. We've got some great guides. I've met them. I bet both our guide in Córdoba as well as our Malaga guide, and some amazing people. You'll have a wonderful time with them. And, we generally have either a lunch or a dinner almost every day, except for our free days, with some real culinary highlights in there that I can't stress enough how amazing they are. So the only thing that one has to factor in extra is your airfare, which we can facilitate for you through our affiliate agency, and of course trip cancellation and insurance. If you sign up early before the end of July for our spring program, or before the end of September for next year's fall program, we've got a little early booking bonus that just enables us to get some deposits off to our hotel partners, firm things up, and then we pass that a little bit of a saving on to you. Good. So it's about time to answer any questions that anyone may have. And so Paula, if you think of a question, or if you're watching the replay and you have you're watching and you think of something that obviously you can't ask it now, but if you have a question now, I'll take a short Q&A session. Otherwise, drop a note to Paula, and she'll answer all your questions, right, Paula?
I will. I love to hear from our members. Give me a call or an email. It's always nice to connect with everyone. But yeah, a couple of questions at the moment that have come in. I had a member asking with regards to like our dress code, and we don't technically have a dress code, but some people are always wondering, do they need more formal attire for any certain occasions? Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, great question. And I think it's important to note, absolutely, our trips are casual. So there is no dress code. And we have some trips, a trip I'm going on next month with a group that requires formal attire because of the nature of the trip. But most of our trips are casual. And so I always say, when you're traveling, comfort is key. That being said, my advice to our members who are largely well traveled, and whether you're well traveled or not, you're welcome. It's not neither here nor there. But what I find is that our members, if they've been to Europe a few times before, when you look at how people dress from North America or from Asia sometimes, compared to how the Europeans look, the Europeans pay a little bit more attention to what they wear. So that's the only thing. If you want to feel like you fit in a little bit more, dress comfortably, but call it smart casual. But there is no dress code, so you can wear whatever you want.
Fabulous. And comfortable shoes are a must, because we definitely are on foot a decent amount, and it's not the same terrain as we're used to here.
Exactly. So
So,
no designer shoes necessary on this trip. That's a no. You want the most comfortable shoes. I've become now a fan of these cloud shoes, which I always thought was a big marketing hoax, but I'll tell you, I just bought a pair recently, and I've walked the heck out of these things, and wow. So I'll tell you, good shoes make a massive difference. So whatever you do, get good shoes.
awesome. Good to know. Another question, as you did touch on, was with regards to what combinations there are. It might be easier for those that are interested to reach out to me to discuss specifically, because there is quite a few options on the front end of this one for spring.
Yeah.
Cyprus, Majorca, Jordan, potentially, it could be a potential. So yeah, there's a few options on the front end, one or two on the back end of the spring one, and then some combinations will come around for the fall, as well as more rolls out for the fall. But there's options either side
Exactly.
that we can review.
About like a winter getaway, which a lot of our members join us on our live away programs. You could do, as Paula mentioned, a live away program before this and go spend a couple of weeks in Cyprus and then come on and do a tour and do this trip around Andalusia as an example. So if you're thinking that 2 weeks isn't enough, drop us a note, give Paul a call, and we'll figure out a combo that would work for you.
Definitely. Perfect. That's all that I have so far
Okay.
that's come in. I did share, we've got a very full week of upcoming webinars. So for those that want to capture it, I put it in early, all of the webinars that are happening next week. So you can copy and paste that, or you can save the chat to make sure you sign up for those. I've popped them in there in the chat box.
Absolutely. There's a couple of key ones to point out. There are two brand new live away programs that we're introducing next week. Our Canary Islands live away to the islands of La Palma, the one where the volcano went off a few years ago. You might remember, I was just there. Amazing place. And Tenerife. So that's our Canary Islands live away, which is on the 27th of May, which would be Monday. And then our Mallorca live away, our newest live away, which is a live away luxe. We're staying at actually a luxury hotel of the world in that program. I'm really excited about it. So that's going to be released next week on Wednesday. So if you're interested in participating for those, please do join us. Otherwise, thanks for taking the time. I do not take it lightly that you invest your time to find out more about our programs. We'd love to see you in Andalusia next year on any of our programs. And take care and have yourselves a wonderful rest of the day.